Come make your way in. Fill in the space to my left. Page 128, look in the lower right. If you have two numbers, look at the number in brackets. The lower right corner, page 128, Yedid Nefesh. Yedid Nefesh Avarachamad. Yedid Nefesh Avarachamad. Neshochavecha.
Shalom. So here we are on our most important holiday of all, Shabbat. We've been covering this for a few weeks now, you and me. Shabbat's the most important of all. And here we are on the Shabbat in between two other important holidays that you've heard of. And this Shabbat is called Shabbat Shuvah, because we are beckoned. We are, well, kind of a little bit shouted at to come, to return, to come home, to return and turn. And what does that mean? So it's turning toward here. It's turning toward, you see in Yedid Nefesh we were just singing, it's turning toward that source that we long for, that we thirst for, that we chase after, that we know is out there, that we feel sometimes so far away from. And the idea is to turn ourselves toward coming home to that source, to that oneness, to that belonging place in which we're totally seen and known, in which we're home. That's what this Shabbat is about. And the idea is that we are going to, in between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, we have this opportunity to prepare our hearts, to prepare our souls, to ready our inner selves for what the next big day is all about, which is this kind of cleansing out, this kind of freeing ourselves, laying down of all the baggage. And what is that baggage? That baggage is all the ways that we weren't home. The baggage is about all the ways we strayed. We just followed our eyes. We followed our whatever. We followed the millions of distractions that are pulling at us all the time, that are separating us from ourselves, that are splintering us and sending shards of us in all kinds of directions, so we're scattered everywhere. And the idea is on this Shabbat to pull back all those little splinters and shards, to pull them back, all the pieces of us that are scattered all over, that we left here and there and everywhere, to pull them back home and make ourselves whole again. To come home and return, so that when we come to Yom Kippur, we are a whole being coming before God and saying, I know the map of where I've been. I know the whole place I've been scattered to. I've counted, I've listed, I've named, I've said I'm sorry. I've tried to fix it. I've done my best. And now I'm ready to come home to you. So that's what this is about, this Shabbat. And a little later, we're going to learn about the aspect of that has to do with waking up. And like when we wake up all the way, we can come home more because we know a little more about who we are and what this is all about. So it's Shabbat. We're going to sing Kabbalat Shabbat like we always do, but maybe with this overlay. That like each of these psalms and each of these words and all these forms of gratitude and all these forms of joy are like invitations. They're just invitations to come home. Let's sing together.
Page 130. Facing page 131. Shirul Adonai, Ticharas, Shirul Adonai, Kol Haaretz, Shirul Adonai, Baruchu Shemo, Basru Miyom Leyom, Yeshuato, Sapru Vagoyim, Kevodo, Bechol Haminim Veotav. Gadol Adonai, Ube'olam me'od, Dorahu, al kol Elohim, ki kol Elohei Hamim, Elim ba'Adonai, Shamayim ha'asah, hod ve'harat, le'panav, oz ve'tiveret, במקדשו ישמחו השמיים ותגל הארץ ירם הים ומלואו יעלו שרה וכל אשר בו אז ירננו כל עצי יער לפני אדוני This 32, Adonai malach tagel haaretz, yismechu im rabim, Hanan barapet sevivav, tzedek umishpat nechon kifo, Ohavei Adonai, sineu ra, shomer nafsho chasidav, miyad reshayim yatzilem, zaru al atzadik, uyishrei letzimcha, simmechu tzadikim b'Adonai, ve'odu lezecher kodesh. Next page, Mizmor shiru l'Adonai, shir chadash, ki niflaot asa, hoshia lo yamino zoato shodia, Adonai Yeshuato, le'nei hagoyim gilat zikato, zachar chasdo ve'emunato, Israel rahu kol afei haaretz et Yeshuat Eloheinu ha'arihu l'Adonai kol haaretz kitzu ve'ranenu ve'zamneru zamru l'Adonai v'chinol ve'kol zimera v'chatzot zerot ve'kol shofar hariu l'ifnei ha'melech Adonai Yiram hayam u'elo v'teber ve'yoshvei var v'neharot yimcha u'cha yachad arim yeraneinu l'ifnei Adonai kiva lishpot haaretz yishpot tevel b'tzedek ve'amim b'meisharim yalai Allah la la ya ya da Allah ya la 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 da Allah ya la 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 ya ya da Allah ya la 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 la. On 135, 5 lines down. Yodu Shimcha Gadol Venora Yodu Shimcha Gadol Venora Kadoshu 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 Yodu Shimcha Yodu Shimcha Gadol Venora Yodu Shimcha Gadol Venora Kadoshu 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 Kadoshu. Just our voices. Yodu Shimcha Gadol Venora Yodu Shimcha Gadol Venora. That last word, of course, Norah, means awesome, as in these days that we're in right now, these Yamim Noraim. At CBE, it's pretty awesome to be the cantor here in lots of ways, but one of the most truly awesome ones I experienced this last Rosh Hashanah was when we were singing the words Berosh Hashanah Yikatevun, and we were singing it pretty loudly and boisterously to start with. And then, I don't know if you noticed this or remembered this, but the last time we sang it, I got subito piano, which is musical terms for suddenly soft. But you didn't know that. And so everyone in the congregation behind me was still singing, and I could hear could hear the sounds of the people singing. And that's something that we can't take for granted anymore, right? Sounds of people being able to sing together in voices raised, in voices hushed. And so my intention for us as we just take the next few moments breathing in this space together is, when are those moments that you've experienced a sense of the hushed sort of awe? Maybe in the last few days, maybe yet tonight, maybe in days to come. But what's it like to feel a sense of hushed awe? Page 138. L'chadodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nekabela. L'chadodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'zachor v'dibur echad, Ishmi'anu el hamiuchad Adonai echad, U'shmo echad, L'shem u'tiferet ve'nitina. L'chadodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nekabela. L'chadodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat לכו ונלכה, מקור הברכה, מראש מקרב מסוכה, סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה. לחדוני לקראת קלה, בני שבת נכבה. לחדוני לקראת קלה, בני שבת. Verse 4. One right here, these ones right here. Am Segula, we're on verse 9. Boi v'shalom, ateret b'hala, gam b'simcha u'b'tzola, tov emunei, Am Segula. Stay with me. L'chadodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nekabela. L'chadodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat. A little bit more. L'chadodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nekabela. L'chadodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nekabela. שמי רבה, ועל מה דברה חירותי וימליך מלכותי בחייך וביומך וחיי לכל בית ישראל. ואמרו אמן, ישמי רבה מברך. יתברך וישתבח, יתברך ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו לעילה לעילה מכל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דמירן בירמה ואמרו אמן ברכו את אדוני המבורך. ברוך אדוני מבורך לעולם ועד. Please be seated, page 148. ומעביר יום ומי בלילה, ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה, אדוני צבאות שמו, אל חי וקיים, תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני, אמרי ורבים. 150. אהבת עולם. אל תסיר ממנו לעולמי, ברוך אתה אדוני, אוהב עמו ישראל. שמע ישראל וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם המזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת. 158. מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, נורא תהילות עושה פלא, מלכותך ראו בניך, בוקי הים לפני משה ומרים, זילי אנו ואמרו וגלו מיד חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני קהל ישראל.
So it isn't just that we engage in this work of coming home, this process of pulling back all the splintered pieces that are scattered everywhere, to become whole again, to return to ourselves and to God, just because we do it not only for ourselves and for our dearest relationships. We do it because the rabbis say it brings healing to the world. So we just sang our prayer for redemption, in which we sing this promise that comes from our people's experience that the broken world became more whole, that tyranny was lifted, freedom became possible when it seemed impossible. And so we sing that every week, and this week it's in conversation with this idea of return. And we all have a role to play in making that liberation possible and making the redeemed world real by the way that we do this turning, coming home, saying I'm sorry, repairing. We turn to page 160 now with Hashkivenu, which is our prayer about the coming on of night and just the longing that we would be safe. And not just us, but all Israel and all people. When we think about all the people who are in harm's way tonight, maybe I want to think about Florida and South Carolina, maybe think about Ukraine, maybe think about anywhere in the world that people are running for shelter, people are needing a roof here on our own streets, people are afraid, people are worried that if they close their eyes, they won't be safe in the night, or they might not wake up in the morning. And we pray for their safety and our own, and a great big Sukkot Shalom, shelter of peace to spread over the whole world. And then from there, we're going to go to Mishaberach, in which we call to mind the specific people we know who need healing. And we'll pause in the middle of that prayer to invite you to say those names out loud.
Sukkot Shalom Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael ve'al Yerushalayim. 371.
Pray for the following people we name now. We pray together. On page 162, we come to Vishamru, and we're going to pray that together out loud, and then we'll go into our silent Amidah. I want you to note, all year long, when we pray the Amidah, we come across little asterisks that say Shabbat Shuvah, and they have little special inserts, and all year long, we skip that section, and tonight, we pray those sections. But we'll be in silence. So first we're going to rise at 162. We'll sing Vishamru together, and then we'll each go into silence, praying Amidah.
Shabbat.
So I need to tell you what a big deal and what a treat it is that we have Melila Helner Eshed with us tonight. Melila is a friend of mine, a dear friend, and also you need to know that she is just like kind of beloved among rabbis and cantors. She kind of has a following, both at the Hartman Institute in Jerusalem and with the Institute for Jewish Spirituality, where she's the teacher every year for the Hevraya retreat, which is kind of like all the alumni, all the clergy who've been through one of the Institute for Jewish Spirituality kind of training programs. There's like a 2-year thing that you go through. We've both done it. There's like a retreat you can go to if you're an alumni, if you're an alumnut, whatever. You get what I'm saying. And she every year, like how many years, Melila, has it been that you're like asked back to come every single year? You're the person who teaches every year. Yeah, 20 years. I mean, a long time. Yeah. So she is the senior research fellow at the Shalom Hartman Institute in Jerusalem. She's taught for the past 25 years Jewish mysticism and Zohar at the Hebrew University in Jerusalem. She serves on the faculty of the Institute for Jewish Spirituality. She teaches Jewish communities around the world. Her publications include A River Flows from Eden, The Language of Mystical Experience in the Zohar, Seekers of the Face, The Secrets of the Idra Rabbah in the Zohar, and her new book, co-written with Omri Shasha, On the Path of the Tree of Life, An Introduction to the Zohar. It's coming out from Brandeis in a month or something, right?
No, Hebrew in a month.
In Hebrew in a month. Okay. Melila is active in the Sulha, which is a reconciliation project that brings together Israelis and Palestinians, and she is donating her honorarium from this time with us to the Sulha. We are just so glad. I am so glad to have you. We are so glad to have you. I'm so glad to be able to share you with this community. And Melila, teach us.
Do it. Oh, thank you. I don't know, as long as I can see all the beautiful faces, I don't care where I stand. Maybe I'll just stand over there. Thank you, Rachel. Shabbat Shalom. I'm very delighted to be here. I think I've never been on Yom Kippur in America, so this is going to be a first for me. And I'm bringing greetings from Jerusalem, where I come from. And I really wanted, in the short time we have, to do some kind of framing of these days. I mean, Rachel was starting to speak about what is Shuvah and what is Tshuva. You know, that it's returning, recalculating, revolving, remembering, and we're trying to bring more things to be in some kind of state of harmony and oneness. But one of the themes that is a recurring theme for all of the month of Elul and for these very special days of Tishrei is the theme of awakening, and that's what I want to just touch upon it. And I want to tell you that in Israel, when we do slichot, when we do the kind of the ritualized readings of asking for forgiveness or, allowing that to surface as something central for these days, in many, many, many of the congregations of Jews coming, especially from the Islamic countries, there is a devotional poem which is said every single night, okay? And the poem is, Ben Adam Malecha Nirdam, Kum Kira Le'Elohim, which means, in a kind of free translation, hey man, what are you doing fast asleep? Okay, like, hey human being, what are you doing fast asleep? Get up, wake up, get up. Go cry to your God. And it says there, go pour your heart, shfoch sicha, pour that conversation that needs to come out of us. And, sometimes we need to cry a lot to allow that conversation to start, but those are the words, and the words are Ben Adam Malecha Nirdam. And there's, dozens of different melodies to saying, wake up, wake up, wake up. So I want to talk about a few of them, okay? About a few of them, and say that the words "Ma lecha nirdam" are the words that in the book of Jonah, which we're going to be reading it. This is, the sneak preview we're having tonight. But on Yom Kippur, in the afternoon of Yom Kippur, we read the book of Jonah. So the words "Ma lecha nirdam," kum, come from the first chapter, which is such an amazing chapter. And in it, Jonah goes to sleep and falls into this, total oblivious kind of sleep in the ship, running away from God and from listening to God's voice. And he goes to sleep when there's a huge storm, right? Endangering this big ship of humanity somehow. And everybody's trying their best there except for Jonah, who, maybe he's in a very depressed, and he goes to sleep. And I think the most beautiful moment in that chapter is that the captain goes down and says, "Hey, ma lecha nirdam? What are you doing asleep? Get up. Go join the rest of the people on deck that are trying to find solutions," right? They're just trying. Ulai, maybe there will be solutions. And that's where it all comes from. It comes from that outer captain, the inner captain, the part that oversees and has that sense of responsibility. Wake up. So it's beautiful that that's where it all comes from. That's where all these melodies, right? They're all coming from that book of Jonah. So that's about the Ben Adam Alecha Nirdam. Kum kra, get up and call. And I'm thinking of it that it's also saying, get up not in order just to be silent. Get up and find your voice. Find the voice in which you could call out. And that's that poem. And one of the things that really interests me is that in Jewish mysticism, which is what I love learning and what I love learning with other people and writing about, and in the book of Zohar, which is my beloved Jewish great creation, one of the main themes is the theme of awakening. And I want to put out there that it's not just in Jewish mysticism that awakening is a central idea, the awakening of consciousness, right? It's not a uniquely Jewish idea. You have it in Hinduism, you have it in Islamic mysticism, you have it very powerfully in Buddhism, which means the awakened, right? Buddha's the awakened one. And it's very fascinating that in our tradition, in the Jewish tradition, the mystics really picked up on it, and what they came around to understand is that we think we're awake, but most of the time that we think we're awake, we're actually in this state of numbness or slumber or sweet slumber, and we're not aware of the fact that we're not really awake. And when they say this, the Kabbalists, they're saying, think of what it could be like to be awake, right? And think about the fact that the reason that it's our inheritance to be able to be awake is because every person was created in the image of God, and the Midrash says that the first Adam and the first woman, Adam, the man and woman, had the capacity to see from the end of the world to the end of the world, and from the end of time in the past to the end of time in the future. Like, there was something about an ability to be awake that we had, and that somehow has become dimmed and numb. And what they're very interested in figuring out the ways to wake up. And one of the things that is most wondrous about it is that when they speak about being awake, they don't mean it in like one ideological sense. Yeah, they're speaking of all kinds of ways of being awake. And I actually want to put this out to us now in a moment, but like, you know, if you can imagine a moment in your life that you remember being awake in a different way than you were awake most of the time, or if you can think of that state of wakefulness, you know, what were the qualities of it? So, I mean, we're going to take a second for this because we need that. But before we do that, I want to say that we're not just talking about one type, like adrenaline wakefulness, danger or wakefulness, or just a wakefulness to call for justice. There's so many different modes of being awake. So before we fall asleep, which we also have to do, by the way, because we have to dream, we have to be replenished. But just take a moment and think of a moment of wakefulness. So I want to put in one moment and then see if you want to add something to it. But the Zohar speaks many times about awakening a very soft place. Not a powerful place, but a soft, nocturnal, poetic, quiet awakening. Where sometimes, you know, we can find ourselves at 3 o'clock in the morning and we know that we're experiencing the world in a different kind of way, and it allows poetry to come up, it allows music to be born. So that's another type of awakening. It's another type of being awake. Are there any other ones that kind of you can think of that's just of our human experience? It's just us. Yeah.
I'll say I'm not just trying to suck up to Cantor Breitzer, but when Cantor Breitzer does the 2 knocks in the Lunar Amana, that to me is when I awaken to Shabbat.
איזה יופי, יישר כוח. תודה. Any other? You just got a wonderful example of that type of awakening. And it's also, it's the awakening of rhythm. It's the awakening of breathing. It's the awakening of heart. Any other types that you know of awakening? Yeah.
This is going to sound strange, but just recently a very close friend of mine died. And you would think you'd want to go under, but I felt like it was an awakening. I felt like it made me say, wake up.
Yeah.
We don't have any. We're not here all the time.
Thank you, dear Janice. Any other thing that, yes?
It's a very particular moment, but it's surfing for me, but between the set. So that's still, like, while you're waiting and watching, it's like hyper-aware but calm.
Beautiful, beautiful. You know, and I think there's also an awakening that has to do with a desire for intimacy. There's the arousal, you know, kind of our blood quickening. It's something that's it's in Hebrew, it's very similar. The word lit'orer, to wake up, is connected to the word le'orer, right? To arouse, are connected also, and I'm thinking also of that very special type of awakening that sometimes happens where things that seemed that have no solution, or that there's like no way out, there's an awakening of just seeing, right? I think when Hagar opens her eyes, right, that we were reading when Hagar opens her eyes and she sees, right? And we have moments of that in all of our Torah, of that moment of finding a way where there is no way. I think that's another wonderful way of awakening. I have like 4 more minutes? Okay. No, it's okay. It's all fine. It's fine. So I want to say another thing that's very fascinating about the mystical take on awakening, and that is that there is no conspiracy. It isn't that you have really forces of evil keeping us poisoned or kind of intoxicated and asleep. It's actually coming from a choice. It's a choice to be asleep. And I think one of the things that's so fascinating, the Zohar has places where there's really this powerful voice coming in from heaven saying, why? Why are you asleep? Get up. There's all this light waiting for you. There's all these things that are open. And why are we asleep? And I think one of the things that is such a fascinating question is, if this is in some way something that speaks to us, what would be a reason that we would choose to stay asleep when we have that capacity to be awake? And, it's something we could talk about for a year. Like, why? Why does it happen? And I think part of it, and I think it's a part that we have to be truthful with ourselves. First of all, many times it's just more comfortable to stay asleep. It is. It's more comfortable sometimes. And I think sometimes the loneliness of being awake amongst people who are asleep is just so lonely. It's so lonely. And it's so difficult. And sometimes, if you think of our world, if the culture is going in one direction, it's very complicated to choose to wake up, right? To how to do that. And sometimes we need teachers, right? We need teachers who will show a way out of a dark, sleepy place. And I mean, there's many, many reasons, and I think that's a fascinating theme. I mean, I wrote a book about it because I thought it was so interesting. Like, it was so real. It's just so real. It's not like just dramatic. It's saying, where could we be more? Where could we be more present? That we could say more Hineni, that here I am, because I can be awake. So there's 2 things I'll just end with. One is that the Zohar says, do not wait for the awakening to come from the outside. The awakening will not come as grace. The awakening has to be something that awakens first from ourselves. And the Zohar says it can be tiny. It can be tiny. It can be just a tiny flame. But it has to be something that we awaken. And if we awaken, that's exactly the theme of Shabbat Shuvah. If we will make one step, right, there will be God saying, I am coming your way. Right? Let's be in that dance, that Ashiveni v'ashuva, right? There'll be Shuvu elai v'ashuva elechem. That part of saying, that is, that is the theme of the whole time. And the Zohar says, remember that is upon us, Aleinu, to be the first to wake up, which is going to be where we can end the Aleinu. And I just want to read the words of a poem. I think Janice and I had a chance of studying this lately. If I can find it, I want to bring it here. I just want to end with it. It's a poem written by an Israeli woman who's, I think, 83 or 85. She was born in Warsaw Ghetto. In the ghetto, she was born. So she's carrying all that stuff. And that brokenness and that wakefulness and sleep. And she wrote a beautiful poem about awakening and maybe also about returning, so I just want to end with it. And she says, something has changed. The walls of the room are expanding. The angles threaten no more. The floor is more stable. one day, this home will grow roots. Meanwhile, gusts of fresh air enter from unknown, hidden places. My weeping, too, has greater clarity. Like a harp song I once heard in a dream, yet I am awake, as it should be. So, Toda Rabba, Shabbat Shalom to all of you and Aleinu.
Noticed we've sung this nigun a few times now, but it hasn't been the same. You've been paying close attention. It's a little higher each time. And that's intentional. Sometimes it's the little things that cause us to sit up and take note, right? And so what I'd like to do is keep singing this a few more times, and when the Spirit moves us, we're going to rise, each of us in our own time. We're so used to rising when you're told to, but what if you rose when you were ready? All right? (586) עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, ונאמר 591 והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא, יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
You may be seated. each in your own time. So, just some quick, let's see, what are the quick announcements? I think there's just thank yous, right? I'm reading the official greetings and announcements, so thanks to our clergy team. Thanks to Mary Beth Bacha and Karen Gerwin for supporting services tonight in person, and Stas Sholshansky for providing audio and online support. And thank you to our guest, Malila Hellner Eshed, for joining us this evening. And join her 2 p.m. on Yom Kippur. She is going to lead us through the book of Jonah and look at all the ways that we need to learn from Jonah in waking up. We always conclude by drawing near the people we love whom we've lost in their memories. If you are in a period of mourning, well, let's start with if you're in Shiva. This is the first week for you since the death of someone you love. I invite you to rise and tell us who you're remembering.
My brother-in-law, I respect.
And if this is Shloshim for you, the first 30 days since the death of a loved one, I invite you to rise and tell us who you're remembering. And if this is Shana for you, the first year since the loss of a loved one, I invite you to rise and tell us who you're remembering.
My mother was a bee. My sister was Esther. My wife went to school.
And if this is a yard site for you, I invite you to rise and tell us who you're remembering. We all rise together in company with the mourners in our midst. So we remember these recent losses in our congregational community. Joanne Wyman, mother of Jessica Wyman, mother-in-law of Matthew Cohen and grandmother of Easton and George. Adele Burke, mother of Marnie Burke, mother-in-law of John Sylvan and grandmother of Simone, Ariel, and Benjamin. These yard sites. Gail Ephraim, Michael Bendel Stencil, David Robert Brenner, Norman Kaplan, Julian Clark, Minnie Cowan, Zvi Menachem Davidson, Jim Dinnerstein, Marilyn Downham, Max Dreyfus, Gail Fishman Gerwin, Linda Franklin, Morris Friedman, Beverly Gassner, Seymour Ginsburg, Nathan Glicken, Judith Gold, Amnon Goldstein, Carol Green, Isaac Hamburger, Sora Iskovich, David Kaufman, Adolf Keller, Louis Klamberg, David Klein, Joseph Klitzman, Cindy Lobel, Helen Machtinger, Dora Mann, Alan Merricks, Dorothy Markowitz, Jacob Mayer, Flora Whitlock Newman, Regina Nissenbaum, Betty Oakes, Mara Rosoff, Harry Schranz, Lucille Schaefer, Faye Sherman, Harold Sidrain, Matt Sylvan, Benjamin Sloam, Anna Spiro, Joseph Stasi, George Trachtenberg, Henrietta Van Ralt, Michael Drew Weiss, Irving Wender, Abe Weinski, Rose Weinski, Rachmiel Zygmuntowicz. Holding them all together, we say Zichronam Livracha, may their memories be an everlasting blessing. As we turn to the words of the Mourner's Kaddish on page 598. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divra chirute ve'amlich machute, b'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei l'chol Beit Yisrael, b'agala uv'izman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'alam ulalmei almaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shmei kudesha brichu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tush birchata v'nechemata da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru. Amen. May the maker of peace make peace for all who mourn. And we say together, Amen.
662. Avinu Malkeinu, Chonenu Vaneinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Chonenu Vaneinu, Ki ein banu ma'asim, Aseh imanu, tzedaka v'chesed. Aseh imanu tzedaka v'chesed ve'oshienu. Aseh imanu tzedaka v'chesed. Aseh imanu tzedaka v'chesed ve'oshienu. V'nashuva, v'nashuva, Kadesh, Kadesh Yameinu kekerem. Hashivenu, Hashivenu, Adonai Elecha. V'nashuva, v'nashuva, Kadesh, Kadesh Yameinu kekerem. Kadesh, Kadesh Yameinu kekerem. Yameinu kekerem. Yameinu kekerem. Shabbat Shalom. Gemar Chatima Tova. Please join us for
Shabbat
Kiddush.
Shalom. See you in the lobby for Kiddush. And as you're making your way out, I just need to note that Cantor Breitzer, when singing Hashivenu, started with Vinashuva. I don't know if you did that on, yeah, of course you did that on purpose. You know, in response to the teaching, which is it starts with us. We return, and then God helps us return after that. Okay, let's meet in the lobby. Shabbat Shalom, everyone.